Welcome back, everyone. If you're new here, my name is Bryan Jenks, and today I'm talking about the Zotero beta that is coming out, and there's a lot of shiny new features. Also, what are the updates and what's been changing with my Zotero workflow? All of that is going to be in this video, so stay tuned. So very recently, I just saw on Twitter that Zotero actually has a new beta out. I've been hearing some rumors that Zotero has some new funding, they're expanding a little bit, they're actually in more quicker pace active development, and there's some really cool things that are coming out from this. There's a new in-app PDF annotation editor. There's the ability to keep everything within Zotero and to do all of your markup and annotation extraction, etc., and everything else we already use Zotero for, as well as an upcoming iOS app with seamless syncing between the desktop application and the iOS application with your PDF annotations. This way, you are not limited to marking up and reviewing and annotating your documents no matter where you are. And wherever you are, you can do any sort of work you want to do with Zotero. So we're going to take a look at some of these features and just the state of the current beta and what you might want to know about this for your own personal knowledge management workflow and how this might work with the zotfile mdnotes workflow with Obsidian so that you can get your annotations out of Zotero into PDFs and into your plain text personal knowledge management system. All of this is what we're going to be covering today, and let's get into it. The best ways to support the channel are, if you're going to do it on an ongoing basis, GitHub sponsors because they take no fees, followed by Patreon. If you're going to do like a one-time thing, buy me a coffee, PayPal are just fine. And if you just want to support me without any money involved, the best thing you can do is like, comment, subscribe, share the video, and that's it. So given the nature of YouTube videos and how sometimes this content is very out of date very quickly, my Zotero workflow has changed in several different ways. And I'm going to show you where I am with that, and on top of that, where the new beta features are currently sitting in my workflow or not, and what you might need to know about them. So let's get started and just jump right in. So in Zotero, there's a new tabbed interface, and I'm going to cover each of these things with the new beta features as we get there. But let me first start off with just what am I doing that is now different? How have things changed for me? So for me, I actually changed my default PDF editor. I was just using the default preview in Zotero and on macOS. I was just open the PDFs into preview, and that worked fine. But what I started doing is using a new PDF editor that I've really started to enjoy. Forgot you actually have to go back to the old version of Zotero to have the default open into PDF viewers versus the new interface. So in the old version of Zotero, if I was still using the PDF viewer, which is actually my workflow, I don't use the beta features, and we'll get to why. But what I started using is no longer preview. It's a new reader called highlights. So when I open up this document, which is just the Tidy Data paper by Hadley Wickham, one of my favorite papers. So when I open it up in highlights, what I really like about this application is it does have a paid version, but the free version does everything I need it to and more, and it's awesome. So not only do I still have the ability to make highlights easily, I can just select this text versus having to click up in preview now. I can just select, I can highlight, I can add my annotations, and really all I need to do is be able to highlight and add these little note annotations to the highlights themselves. That's all I really need. So that works with zotfile and the mdnotes plugins for the workflow to get plain text to Obsidian. But now, as I scroll down, I can see I also have a side panel of just the annotations and a panel of just the papers over here. And we can easily toggle what different viewing options we want to have here, 2 pages at a time, or 2 pages with the first page by itself up at the top, and change my viewing options of papers, see my annotations, and I can even change by hotkeys what color of annotations or what I want to see. And I really, really enjoy this interface and dealing with annotations in highlights. And I don't have to pay for anything. This is exactly what you get for the free version. Now, some things I want to highlight, no pun intended, is that the highlights application and now my new way of classifying different colors of annotations are all due and inspired by slash and stolen from Bree Watson. And Bree Watson is a very active member in the Obsidian forum and a PhD student, really awesome, dealing with library science and information classification. And I'll put a link to their website in the pinned comment around this timestamp too. So do check out their work. Really amazing stuff. I've gotten a lot of great inspiration and ideas and tools from Bree. So highlights I found from Bree's suggestion as one of a great solution to editing PDFs, as well as no longer needing Adobe Acrobat on my iPad, because highlights can also be on the iPad. So this is why I started moving to highlights. I don't need a different one. I can use preview on my MacBook, but then I needed Adobe on my iPad. Didn't work. I didn't like that because I hate Adobe as a company in general. But highlights, there we go. Now, what do the color annotations mean? So stealing from inspiration from Bree's workflow here and a way I wanted to do different colors is that the colors in highlights actually correspond to a different named color in Zotero when you actually extract them with the mdnotes plugin. So in here, yellow actually equals orange annotations in Zotero. So left-hand side is what it says in highlights. Right-hand side is what the extracted notes will say in Zotero. And then what they actually mean to me are over here on the right. So what they are is yellow annotations are actually orange, and what those are important points by the authors. So what the author thinks is important. Pink, or in this case red when extracted, is points where I disagree with the author. Green are green across the board, but those are points that are very important to me specifically. Purple, or in this case magenta when extracted, are literary notes to look up later, ideas, maybe other papers, or hey, that's a very interesting claim there. I'm going to look into that claim and find support or research behind that claim later. Those are purple. And so when I actually extract those into Obsidian through plain text, I actually have a specific tag, a nested tag for paper and this purple icon, because normally these ones are all statuses, red, orange, yellow, green, but purple, to correspond with purple here, is literary points that I need to come back to and review. Kind of like a task item, but this one is specific to looking up items in papers. Now, this also works with in conjunction with the green status. So I might be completed by reviewing a paper in my normal workflow, but I might also have some items to look up down the line when I have some time to really review those claims that I want to look up later. And then finally, blue is also blue across the board, and those are my notes after initial iterations. So let's just say I finish all of my note-taking, my yellow, my orange, red, green, and magenta extracted notes, but let's say I review the paper again later and I have additional notes to add. That is when I will tag them with blue. Now, in this case, what's something that Bree does really awesome, that is really cool, and that I really like, is different shades of blue. So every time you iterate over the paper, you pick a different shade of blue to show like how many times you're getting new notes out of the document. Now, I'm keeping it simple at this point because I'm not even at a master's degree level. I'm working on my bachelor's at this point. So this is sufficient to me to just say blue. But this is how I'm now doing highlights with my papers. And let's see what that looks like in Zotero when I run an extraction on a document with multiple color annotations. Now, as you can see here, I've made several new colors of annotations. I got a blue, a red, a yellow. Granted, yellow and this orange are both going to be extracted to orange, I believe. So let's actually see what this looks like when extracted in Zotero. So I have my PDF document here, and I have, as you can see, I've done multiple extractions for different things in here, but we're gonna have a new date stamp for this current extraction. So now I'm going to say, hey, we're going to, manage attachments, and we're going to extract annotations, okay? So when that finishes, it will actually extract several different kinds of annotations. Now this is a setting you can actually set with zotfile, and it will actually pull out each date stamped color of annotations. Now, one thing I don't like is it doesn't put the date in the front, but I'm sure that's probably a setting you can fix so that the extractions are timestamped in the front so they sort chronologically. I'm probably gonna look into that afterwards. But what you can see here is that each of these different extractions are all from right now, this date time, but they're separated out by color. Why is that useful? Well, let's say that you have a section into your literary notes, in your literature notes in Obsidian, and you want to have sections for each different type of note, every point you disagree with the author, every time you do agree, notes to follow up afterwards, all of these might be something you want to have in sections. And so that is totally possible now. And yeah, so this way we're able to easily see different types and categories of your annotations made through a document through different colors. And this isn't actually a setting with zotfile. So now I can easily take all of these different items and I can right click mdnotes, export to markdown. We're going to do batch export. So batch export to markdown, and I'm just going to say, let's send them to downloads because I don't want to put them anywhere important. And so now when I open up my downloads, I actually just need to click export, not batch export. But now we can see I got all the plain text documents for that paper with, as you can see, this very verbose title of just the document, the color of annotations, the timestamp, and then a bunch of like initial text from the document. But these are really great ways of getting your annotations separated out and classified in a way that is useful to you. And this is now my new workflow, having each of these different colors of annotations separated out so that I can easily organize them in my plain text literature note for that document. Another discovery from Bryan and their workflow is Johnny Decimal. I've really come to love and enjoy Johnny Decimal for when I actually do use folders for organization, and sometimes there is a valid reason to organize with a rigid folder hierarchy. Now, where it comes very in handy is when you don't do unlimited levels of nesting of folders and lose things. Johnny Decimal sticks with a 2-level directory structure when everything has a specific tag ID that you are easily able to search for. Now, what I have over here is several different categories, and inside of these I might have different larger buckets, and inside of those buckets everything breaks down by hundreds, then by tens, and then a single 99. This way everything has its own specific number. Now, what I'm using this for, and I actually need to revise some of this actually, is grouping my different paper topics. So I might have in my psychology, mental health, and disorders and ADHD, I have general psychology, mental health, mental disorders, and inside of mental disorders I have ADHD. So I have papers on ADHD. Now I also have a new, I'm not sure if this is actually a plugin. I think it actually is. I think it's like a scite something or other plugin. But this actually shows me the supporting and disputing paper citations and mentions of individual documents for these specific items. And this is a great way of seeing how important this particular item and piece of literature is in the general academic environment. Really useful ways of organizing and seeing the support of a particular paper or document. Now, a feature I've really come to enjoy as well with Zotero is the tag panes. Now, there's a lot of tags that are just randomly also added to the papers by default, but also you can add your own. And what I have in here now is a particular note called my Zotero taxonomy. It's super simple. There's a million ways of organizing anything and everything, but one thing I'm doing with tags is, again, emojis, making it easy for me to see just at a broad view, regardless of context, i.e. my rigid folder hierarchy and classification of subject matter, which is Johnny Decimal, but as a contextless grouping of anything at a particular status of processing, I'm using emoji tags yet again. This time in Zotero for organizing my papers. And so what I can see is that, first of all, one reason I love to do this is that emojis sort to the top. I don't have to go hunt for anything. I don't have to hunt for the word read, unread, reading, etc. Don't have to do that. I can easily see at the top visually what emoji I want to pick for whatever I'm trying to look at. So let's just say, what are the items I'm currently reading? And I can click the open book, and here's all the items I'm currently reading. And now, one thing I really love about Zotero and their tagging system is that now I have a bunch of tags in here. There's a lot less now because I selected the open book, and now it filters down to only these active items have their tags shown. So from this, I'm able to easily say, okay, so of all the things I'm currently reading, I want to see anything related to Git. Okay, there we go, Git. And this is the only thing in here, but if you have a large amount of documents and items, the more you click on the tags for relevance, the easier you are able to just cut through all the noise of how many documents you have and look at something of a particular subject matter or area. This is why it really helps when you tag things in Zotero, because you can click on multiple tags and get exactly to a particular subject matter supporting paper or item that you're trying to find. super easy to use. And I love the emojis because they're right at the top and it's very easy to see what I'm trying to find. You know, here's a bunch of stuff that I want to read. Here's a bunch of stuff I have finished reading. Yeah. A quick aside, if you're interested in what I'm working on, hearing about updates on my projects like Obsidian for Business and anything I've got going on, do sign up for my newsletter. The link to that is in the description below, as well as the pinned comment. I talk about a lot of different things, articles, notes, new things I've found and discovered, tools, video updates, and just announcements of different things like the new product services I'm working on for Obsidian for Business, actually using Obsidian in a business environment for business use cases. Lots of cool things coming out, and I plan to make this a monthly newsletter, so do sign up to that in the pinned comment description below. And let's get back to the content. All right, so I know you're here to see the beta features, and now that I've updated on what I'm doing with Zotero these days, let us actually look at the beta features, because there's some really cool stuff that has come out. Now, first of all, to actually get the beta features, you can go and, it's not really easily seen on here on the front page, but one thing you can do is that I will put a link at this timestamp in the pinned comment for any sort of link that I'm showing. So there is a page that is now available where you can opt in for a beta release of Zotero. You can click this link, Zotero Beta, and you can actually get into the beta. And you can see a little preview cheat image here of what this might look like. Interesting. Okay, cool. And then once you actually install the beta feature, the beta release of Zotero, you're going to be able to take advantage of all these new features or the older workflow of opening up a PDF reader with your PDF documents. Now, a note of caution. I was also advised by somebody who, Argentum in the Obsidian server, who made the mdnotes plugin for extracting to plain text, that the downloading the beta and using it actually fundamentally changes your Zotero database, meaning that you're not going to be able to roll back to a prior version, and this might affect some things. So, like with anything important when you go to a new major version of something or something that fundamentally changes, make a backup of your Zotero vault if you're going to play around with these features. You might find that they are not going to work for you and you need to go back. So make sure you have that option available to you. Make a backup of your vault. Not vault, but your database. So once you actually get the beta version installed, you just install it. It'll overwrite your current iteration of Zotero. And then how do we get those new features? So in Preferences, there is now a new option right here, which is Enable the Zotero PDF Reader and New Note Editor. Now this is preview. It'll only work on your own personal library, not any group stuff, because you don't want to accidentally, cause some issues and wreak havoc on other people's work that you're sharing with. So currently I have it turned off so that I was able to show you the highlights workflows that I'm using now. But now if I click Enable Zotero PDF Reader, I need to restart, and then it will open up. And now there's some new things here. There's some things that are different. So one of the main things is that now there is a new tabbed display. There's the My Library tab. So let's go back to the paper we were looking at earlier. I know I've read it before, so I'm already filtering, and I can easily say tidy data. Great. Let's open up this document. It doesn't open up in highlights anymore. It opens up in Zotero. And one thing to note is, wait, where did this red annotation come from? I didn't add that while I was showing you the highlights application. I didn't do it while I was off screen. This is actually something that I made in the new version of Zotero. So this is where things get a little hairy. This new beta feature PDF annotation editor viewer inside of Zotero is actually using PDF.js, a very widely popular and used library in JavaScript for viewing PDFs. And because Zotero is made with the web stack, this works. Now, one thing to know about these annotations is that they are stored in Zotero, not the PDF file, which is why I made this annotation. It has a comment. There you go. Color, annotation, comment, yes. But when I opened up the PDF in highlights, you didn't see that comment. It didn't exist. If I opened up the document in my file system, you would not see this red annotation. That is one critical difference of these new annotation styles, is that now these annotations are stored in Zotero as data, not on the PDF document. Now, there might be a very valid and good reason to actually do that, sharing your PDFs with others instead of having them be all messy and dirty with comments and annotations or your own private thoughts and things that you have on those papers. You can now easily share those things and extract them or share them without the annotations because the annotations are stored in Zotero. But one thing that does make this a pain to deal with is that now this breaks the mdnotes workflow. You can no longer extract these types of annotations to plain text. So you can see this is on here already. Let's actually extract these annotations. Extract annotations, and it's going to extract them. It's going to think for a little bit while it does this. But now you're going to see that there was a red and a bunch of orange annotations. So we should have two files, right? Well, we only get orange annotations extracted, no red annotations. This does not work with the mdnotes workflow. That's something that you're going to have to take into account, is that now you're going to not extract your notes to plain text. That doesn't work for me. So obviously I am not using this beta feature yet. Now there is plans for development to actually have these exported to another format because Zotero is not going to be like Mendeley and keep all your stuff locked down into Mendeley. So this is a more Mendeley-ish type of annotation workflow where Mendeley actually lets you view the PDFs, mark them up, and view annotations inside of Mendeley. But this way, hopefully soon, they will actually be extractable to plain text. Now I know, and I talked to Argentum about this just the other day, that once this beta feature is released and it's more stable, she plans to actually work on the mdnotes plugin to work with this new style of annotations for extraction. So all things in good time, but at the immediate moment, this breaks the workflow. But ultimately, we're probably going to get there relatively soon where this is a released feature and we're going to be able to extract in plain text and everything's going to be great. Now, some additional new features with this new viewing pane and the new beta features. There is now a new interface in the side panel where you can see the notes for this item, the PDF, all these extracted annotation files, basically every note you have for the document. You can now easily see these in the side pane and open them up as you're actually viewing the document. So if it wasn't like extracted notes here and extracted annotations, you could easily just have whatever your own personal notes are over here and then add to them. So this way you're able to easily also write up your notes as well as highlight and annotate and comment on them. So another great way of getting information about the document next to the document. Now, one thing that's also really cool is that these new this new annotation tag pane over here, or the actual annotation pane, will highlight the annotation you're currently looking at. But because I clicked on this annotation, if I now use my arrow keys, I can now traverse all the different annotations just with my arrow keys. Now, this is really cool and really useful. Now, you can also add your comments up here, so you can easily highlight here, and make that red, and now I can also add comments, hello world, to that annotation. And one thing I haven't seen how this actually affects anything yet is that you can add tags to these comments, but I haven't seen that work with anything or do much of anything at all yet. So I'm not sure what purpose that serves. But now you can actually traverse your annotations with your arrow keys and easily see them, hop to them, and add comments through this new pane. If I want to delete that, I can just delete it. Bam, just like that. Awesome, that's it. Just fine. And also with PDF.js, we can also now select an area of the document for an annotation. So there we go. I'm not sure how this actually looks like when it's extracted because we can't do extraction yet, but maybe that will be a really cool feature that we might want to take advantage of later on. Now, one really cool thing about this new release in the beta version of Zotero is that there's also a planned iOS application. Yes. So with Zotero, they are now planning to have an iOS application, long overdue, which means now we can also use it with iPads. And where this comes in handy is now you can actually opt in for the beta for the iOS app. I've already done this, and there's going to be a link for it in the pinned comment below where you can also just log in with your Zotero account and bam, you're already going to be invited to the beta. I haven't seen what this looks like yet, I don't know, but it's supposed to work seamlessly with the new PDF editor and annotation style so that you are able to work on your documents no matter where you are, on mobile, on iPad, and this can actually also solve the zotfile to iPad workflow with editing your documents. Now you can just do it on your iPad through the Zotero iOS app. And again, one thing I'm just loving about Zotero is that this is free and open source software. This isn't going to cost you anything. likely. And I'm not sure if they're going to charge for the mobile app or not, but what they really seem to charge for is the online storage. And if you're not using that, there you go. And you might actually have to use online storage to access with the beta, and that might be where they make their money. But you know what? It's open source software. I really trust that and the extensibility that comes with that far more than I trust something closed source like Mendeley. And if you are interested in this, do sign up, and I hope to see it soon too. So on a parting note, just because some of these features are brand new, really cool, shiny, and you want to try them out and use them, doesn't mean, again, that they're going to make your life easier and actually provide value. Always keep in mind that just because there's a new shiny feature doesn't mean you have to use it, and you probably shouldn't use it unless it actually adds value to your life. Right now, we cannot take these new annotations and extract them to plain text, so basically the entire new beta features, the entire beta doesn't do anything for me. That's it. I'm not using the beta. This will likely change when the beta is stable, released, and is now an official release, and then the plugins will be supported and updated so that then they can extract those annotations to plain text. Then I'm all over it because I'm going to be editing on my iPad. I can easily sync with the iOS application, and we can easily mark up and do whatever we want to do, all with Zotero tools. Free and open source software, easily accessible, and seamless integration with the annotations and the applications. And when it reaches that point, that's likely when I'm going to jump over and use these new tools. But just because it's shiny and new now doesn't mean it's going to make your life easier. So always keep in mind those 2 cents of mine is just because it's shiny doesn't mean it's going to be valuable. Hopefully you found this video interesting. Do let me know your thoughts and what you think about the beta, the upcoming iOS application, how this affects your workflow. Are you going to use these new things? Are you just going to continue to use an external editor, PDF reader, or are you going to use the new tab version and all of this stuff? Let me know your thoughts. What do you think about that in the comments below? I'd love to hear your opinions. And a quick note before we go, a big shout out and thank you to all of the GitHub sponsors and Patreon patrons who support this channel, as well as anyone who buys me a coffee. Sponsoring and supporting the channel is not required by any means, but everyone who does so, I greatly appreciate. Thank you for thinking that this channel and the things I talk about are valuable enough to deserve your support. I appreciate every single one of you, and if you would like to support the channel, I've mentioned the best ways to do that in the beginning of the video, and just thank you again for supporting the channel. So with that, thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you all in the next one.